It's fantastic that we've got so many of you today. On behalf of IETFL Poland, I express great gratitude that you are here with us. This year, IETFL Poland, Association of Teachers of English as a Foreign Language, is celebrating 30 years anniversary, and it's wonderful that you're here with us. This year, we have been honored with so many fantastic speakers, and today it's a great pleasure to listen to Anna Sołtyska, who will be talking about cheating in online assessment. Good evening, everyone, and I'm sure we're going to have a fantastic time. And the topic is a very important one. But before Anna will start presenting, I would like to tell you a few things about what we have planned for you this week, this month, or this year. So, as you know, today we've got 23rd of March, but soon we are going to have one of the even bigger events in our calendar, and this is Teacher Development Day, which is going to take place on 27th of March, and it will be on Zoom. We've got 100 places for you guys, so please take a look at ietfl.org.pl, and please do check that you can still take place in this great event. Moreover, I would like to draw attention to next great thing that IETFL Poland prepared for you this year. And I'm sure you've all been missing a public speaking contest, which didn't take place last year. But this year, we are organizing another, I think this is 6th or 7th public speaking contest. This time it will be run online. The speech to be delivered is entitled "Climate Change: A Threat or an Opportunity." This is the contest for high school students and for students of primary schools in the 7th or 8th class. Okay, so I'm pretty sure that all Polish teachers of English, teachers of English in Poland, are looking forward to this great event. And one of the local editions, Mazovian editions, will be on the 27th of May 2021. So stay tuned, visit www.ietfl.org.pl and make sure that you inspire your students to take part in public speaking contest. This will be one of the biggest public speaking events in Poland. So make sure that your students do not miss the chance to take part in it. Once again, it's great to have you all here. I very quickly remind you that soon we are organizing Teacher Development Day. This is on the 27th March. Then remember about the public speaking contest. And of course, the most important thing, that the 30th annual International IETF Poland conference will take place on 17th and 18th September 2021. So please stay tuned. I can see that Lucyna Wienkiewicz-Górniak has joined us. So Lucyna, if you're ready, over to you.
Okay, all right, I'm ready. Can you, am I audible?
Yes, yes, we can hear
Okay,
you.
that makes me really happy. And I would like to start without any further by briefly introducing Ania Sołtyska, who has prepared her first webinar for us, IATF Poland, but I hope it won't be her last webinar. Especially that she specializes in the area of ethical practices in the classroom. So that is something that we should all be very concerned about, and in fact we are concerned about it, but sometimes it is impossible for us to control the situation in the classroom because we don't have the right tools. Briefly a few words about Ania. Ania was born in Warsaw, but she's currently based in Germany. So this is our Polish woman in Germany, Polish teacher in Germany, where she teaches English for general and specific academic purposes. And she has been active for a long time in language teaching and testing industry, and she has worked in secondary and higher education. She has conducted in-company courses, both for groups and in one-to-one meetings, both in Poland and in Germany. So if we were to specify Ania's activities, we would say that Ania is teacher trainer and presenter and teacher at the same time, holding workshops at conferences in many different countries. She has enumerated in her bio Great Britain, Finland, Russia, Egypt, and Azerbaijan. So there is quite a range of countries that I was really personally impressed with. And she concentrates on the following areas, and I would like everybody to concentrate right now, because I would like to ask Ania to stay in touch with us if possible, and maybe prepare her next webinars about any of these areas that I'm going to enumerate to you, and maybe you would refer to in your remarks in the chat box, like task-based learning, teaching and assessment, assessment-related malpractice, so this is our today's topic, teaching foreign languages in plurilingual classrooms, that's a tongue twister, validating assessment of writing skills, and integrating mediation activities in language learning and testing. So think about these areas, and if possible, you can write some comments in the chat box, which of them might be interesting for you for a future webinar with Ania. In 2019, she established a working group, Language Centers Against Academic Misconduct. That is a very interesting initiative to promote awareness of academic integrity and non-cheating culture. So we have the guru with us, and the webinar will concern cheating in, among others, online assessment. And she wrote that in pandemic situation, we have to resort to new digital technologies, but at the same time, we are all fully aware of the fact that opportunities of cheating multiply while being online. And so Ania will tell us what is meant by the term e-cheating. Then she will refer to how this phenomenon threatens test security and reliability, and which aspects of test security are of utmost importance when assessing foreign languages. So these are the main ideas. Welcome, Ania, to us, and I hope you will continue your cooperation with us.
Thank you very much, Lucyna, and thank you, Marcin, for a very warm welcome. Thank you to IATF Poland for inviting me to speak to you today. I'm really honored to give a webinar on one of the topics of my academic interest. And well, I'm particularly interested to be back to the roots, to IATEFL Poland, where I started my teaching career a couple of years ago. So today I'm talking about cheating in language assessment, obviously, and I'm speaking on behalf of myself. I'm representing the Ruhr University in Bochum, where I am a lecturer in the University Language Center. Something that Lucinda didn't mention, I'm also a webinar coordinator for IATEFL World TSIG, Testing, Evaluation and Assessment, a special interest group. And I'm a convener of the University of German University Language Centers working group. So with many hats today, I would like to mention a couple of issues of relevance when discussing the topic of language assessment. And in particular, I want to draw your attention to the concept, to the phenomenon of cheating and its evolution towards the concept of e-cheating. We definitely need to mention why test takers, language test participants in particular, resort to those acts, resort to cheating. From then on, we need to stress the importance of impact of cheating on test validity and test reliability, which definitely influences our perception of assessment context as a whole. And last but not least, this is something that we all are looking forward to. I hope that you all are looking forward to. We will discuss some practical measures that can be implemented to reduce, minimize, definitely not to eradicate, but at least lower the content of misconduct and cheating in language assessment. So let me start with terminology, because I'm based at a university and I work with some literature on the topic. I also write articles myself. The concept is very often determined by the term academic malpractice or academic dishonesty, in Polish nieuczciwość akademicka. So the definition would be a transgression against academic integrity, which entails taking an unfair advantage that results in a misrepresentation of a student's ability and grasp of the knowledge. This is a very academic and scientific definition. So the one I suggest we use is this of a more familiar concept of cheating. That is any action taken before, during, or after the administration of a test or assignment that is intended to gain unfair advantage of procedure, unfair advantage or produce inaccurate results. And the definition I personally like very much, and the one that you can definitely use when talking about cheating with your students, with your learners, I would say of all ages, is that cheating is simply not using one's own brain to get an unearned grade. Yeah, so that's what we are talking about today. Cheating is not a new concept. It's not a new phenomenon. I'm sure many years ago when you were at school and months ago before we turned online, cheating has also been present in your classrooms, in your exam halls. And Fremer and Mulkey at the end of the previous century in their article listed the 10 most wanted test cheaters. And they started with an impersonator. So with a person, with a test taker who takes a test for someone else, who sends his or her twin brother or twin sister to take a test for them, who sends a lookalike for a test. Another common type of cheaters that Fremer and Mulkey had on their top 10 list was Robin Hood. And if you remember well who was Robin Hood, this is a person who does not cheat himself or herself, but who helps others to cheat. And in the role of a Robin Hood, we can imagine other students, other test takers, but unfortunately, we can also imagine other teachers or co-teachers, and unfortunately also parents of test takers. So someone who is not personally involved in the test, but nevertheless makes cheating possible or helps a person cheat. We also have insider traders, some people who make use or take advantage of the knowledge they have access to, people who know exam questions, people who know details of tests to be written or to be published, and share this knowledge with potential or prospective test takers. The fourth type, very common, I would say, especially in the large classes or in large schools or educational institutions, are time travelers. Just imagine a test which is written, the same test which is written by multiple groups. Group, I don't know, class 4A on Monday, class 4B on Tuesday, or one group at 8 o'clock, the other group at 10 o'clock. Time travelers are people who pass information between time zones, information on the test, and this way make it possible, make it easier for test takers taking the test late at a later time to profit from this information. We also have collaborators. Nothing new, nothing that we should be surprised to see in this list. Any type of collaboration, of course, undesired, if not prohibited collaboration, has always been part of the testing process. And last but not least, we've got smugglers. Yeah, any type of smuggling, of bringing in unauthorized material, be it dictionaries, be it cheat sheets, be it cleverly prepared vocabulary lists or irregular verbs list hidden somewhere under the bottle. And these days, smugglers would also be smuggling in some electronic devices used for communication during the test. So as you can see, cheating has been there with us for many years, and definitely was not invented together with the introduction of online testing, online assessment. And so I think that's the time for our first survey question. So let me show you the first one. Yeah, if you could please type, and I suppose you're typing somewhere on the screen, the overview I have is slightly different from yours. If you could please type in the forms of cheating that you think are most frequent in conventional analog assessment. Yeah, so forget what we are experiencing now. Do not think of e-cheating yet. Do not think of testing online, but rather at what happened earlier. We've got smuggling, collaboration. Okay. Cheat sheets. Yeah, smuggling seems to be quite on top of your, it's not your list of preferred types of cheating, but definitely most common, most frequent. Yeah. Okay, there are some people typing. Let's see. I don't know. I hope you will be able to see the answers when I close the survey. So until now, a quarter of all participants have given their answers, and I would say everyone who wanted will have probably had their say until now. So to share the results, well, we can only see that we had 31 participants, but in the chat box, we can see probably the most common responses. Yeah, smuggling was very high on your list, and so was collaboration, cheat sheets, cheating using phones. Okay, so back to my slides. Where are we? Here we are. So what's important to know is not only how learners, how test takers cheat, but also why they do it. Why does it happen? What are their motivations in resorting to those illegal acts? First of all, this is just a sign of times. This is an increased... I don't know why you can't see my slides again. Sorry for that. Just disappeared, but here we are. Good. So it's the sign of times. It's the increased competitiveness. It's the pressure to succeed. It's not the knowledge that it's important, but rather the result of the test, the certificate, which can be obtained in this illegal, unlawful way. Another reason why learners cheat while test takers cheat is simply because of their inability or lack of ability, because of their poor time management skills, because of their poor study skills, because they are simply not capable of learning what they are supposed to learn to pass the test, to take it and pass it successfully. Another reason, and here is where we as testers and test developers are to blame, is because of opportunity. There might be just no supervision, or there might be minor or simply no consequences of being caught. And in a way, the temptation is just too high for them to resist, and they decide to just give it a try. It might also be, and again, we are to blame here as testers, as examiners. It's because they see no added value of tests, of assessment processes, because tests we develop, because assessment processes we develop are of little or no relevance for future language use. They simply see no sense in learning, studying, and taking the test. And unfortunately, this is just because of their attitude towards dishonest practices. It can either be an individual's attitude, so single person, single student's attitude, or general society attitude, the so-called cheating culture, according to Crittenden, which is the culture where people are tolerant of cheating behavior, where people believe in the need for cheating to achieve a goal, and when they perceive that everyone around them is cheating in order to succeed. And in such an environment, being surrounded by people sharing this attitude, it's difficult both for test takers and for test developers to break through and to change those mindsets. Malpractice in language assessment is, well, not much different. The reasons for cheating in language tests, both high stake and middle stake, and probably also low stake, so classroom testing, is because of the increased importance of test performance. It's always a decision behind the test that matters to test takers. There might be some gatekeeping decisions, being admitted somewhere or not. Especially in high-stake contexts, this is access to higher education, access to higher level, access to more advanced group in case of secondary school or school placement testing. It can be access to the labor market, job opportunities. It can be language testing for immigration purposes, where obviously there is a lot at stake, or for citizenship, being granted a passport of a particular country. So the more is at stake, the more likely or the more tempted test takers might be to resort to illegal practices. Another issue that plays a role here is a more fluid notion of what is unethical. And there are people who believe that everything which is not explicitly forbidden is allowed. Just let's think about the difference between tax avoidance and tax evasion. So escaping paying taxes by resorting to illegitimate trickery, right? There are people who are more prone to resorting to borderline practices, and ... stands for the fact that this list is by no means an exhaustive one, with every single individual a new motivation, a new reason, another reason to resort to cheating might appear on this list. So let me move on to the second question, where I want to hear your experience with assessment-related cheating and misconduct, this time in online settings. So I can imagine that you've been teaching and you've been testing online for quite some time now. I would say at least for a year. At least that's my experience. Exactly a year ago, we went into lockdown and completely turned online. The question I want to ask you, and I hope this time we will be able to see all of the responses on screen immediately. That's the previous one I want to show you. Okay. Yep, here it is. Okay. So I hope the questions are in English and the options are in English as well. In the past 12 months of online teaching and testing, I have observed no instances of cheating, or I have observed and verified at least one instance of cheating, or I have observed at least one instance of suspicious behavior which could not be verified due to insufficient evidence, due to lack of time, due to no procedures, etc. Right? So let's see what your experiences with cheating have been over the past 12 months with online cheating or cheating in online contexts. And let's see whether, if observed, whether those instances of cheating have been verified or rather left alone, untackled, unsolved, unverified. Yeah. We've got 44% of attendees who have responded. I can see Lucina and Peter writing in the chat box. Probably the interface you have enables you to click on one of the options, which would mean that your voice counts, your response counts, and will be... okay, Lucina, I didn't know that. Obviously, as a moderator, you've got some special rights, special privileges, but not as a participant of a survey. Okay, so 53% of participants have responded. Let's see what the answers are. So, how will I know the answers? Okay, good. So 39 of respondents say that they have observed at least one instance of suspicious behavior, which could not be verified for various reasons. 24% of you say that you have observed and verified at least one instance of cheating. So a quarter of you was not only successful in playing the Sherlock Holmes, but also managed to bring the matter to its end. We don't know whether the cheaters were convicted or penalized, but at least there was some verification. And only 3%, so only 2 respondents, said they have not observed any instances of cheating, right? This is a bit alarming. And let's see what the data I want to share with you confirms. So the survey, the same survey question was asked in autumn 2020, so after 1 semester of teaching and testing online, to the community of German teachers, German foreign language teachers active in higher education in Germany. The context is slightly different. The languages are also different. So it's not only English, but all foreign languages taught at German higher education institutions. But basically, at that time, teachers were either very naive or they were not very careful, because they said 45% of respondents said that no instances of cheating were observed. On the other hand, 35, so very similar number to your responses, claimed that there were instances of suspicious behavior or response patterns observed, which couldn't have been verified for various reasons. And at least 1 instance of cheating was observed by 24% of respondents. Yeah, someone is writing, maybe German kids don't cheat. Well, I wouldn't say it's the question of nationality or of culture. By the way, these were not kids, but young adults. So students who are at least 18 years of age. But definitely, it's also about teachers' awareness and teachers' security, teachers' sensitivity to issues of academic misconduct and acting in a dishonest way. So that's what happened in 2020 after a couple of months of online teaching and online cheating. And already in 2017, Marsh in his report noted a 42% rise in cheating involving technology in the period 2012 to 2017. I'm really looking forward to a similar survey or similar study being conducted between the years 2017 to 2020, and then 2020 and beyond. Peter, thank you very much for your comment on cultural attitudes towards cheating. They do indeed vary very much in different countries, but this is something I will not be talking about today, but apparently it should matter a lot. So let's see what we mean when talking about e-cheating. Obviously, e-learning, e-teaching, e-testing means there must also be e-cheating. And I will today use the definition offered by Philip Dawson, that basically e-cheating is each instance of cheating that uses or is enabled by digital technology. And by digital technology, we mean hardware, so computers, smartphones, smartwatches, earphones, any devices that we can't even think of that probably were not discovered yet or made available on the market, and also software and various online tools such as identity checking apps, such as auto-paraphrasing tools, online dictionaries, as well as e-commerce platforms, etc. E-cheating includes, among others, contract cheating, so situation when a piece of work to be submitted as someone's own is outsourced to other individuals or to companies in an organized way. here we say by means of a contract. Yeah, of course, no one would sign up a proper contract with proper data personal data being disclosed, but some kind of an agreement must exist for contract cheating to take place. E-cheating also includes hacking, so breaking into online testing platforms, breaking into exam management systems, inspecting HTML codes of test sites, something that doesn't require very, very high level of technical skills, but something that should not be used for this purpose. E-cheating comprises also passing on login or authentication details to a third party, most likely with the aim to making them available or giving them access to test content and letting them work in examinee's name. And of course, e-cheating also refers to collusion, collaboration, any undesired communication during the test, which involves digital methods of communication, something that when learning from home is inevitable. We will not have students sitting side by side. We will not have learners sitting at the same table, but rather test takers communicating digitally. Two other quotations I want to show you. I wanted to share with you. How is e-cheating different from conventional analog cheating? Well, the specialist, the expert, Philip Dawson, claims that it simply does not require any cleverness or any hard work on the part of students. It's never farther than just a web search away. And I would say that's a controversial thesis because in a way, e-cheating does require far more skills than preparing a crib sheet, a cheat sheet, and just having it in your sleeve. On the other hand, the way how you can learn about ways of cheating is far, far more accessible and unfortunately far easier. Why is cheating in general a threat? Why are we talking about this concept, this phenomenon today? Well, I hope I do not need to persuade anyone that cheating is a threat indeed, because it creates an unsafe situation where incompetent and dishonest professionals walk among us. Just think about well, that's an example you can easily imagine. Think about a pilot who cannot properly communicate with the tower because they've cheated on the language test. Or think about a doctor who cannot communicate with the patient because the language test they had to take to be admitted to the profession was not fully legally taken. Cheating also leads to people being accredited as having particular learning outcomes which they have not actually met. So it undermines our feeling of equality. We just feel we are being fooled out when there are people who have cheated and have not been punished for that. Why is e-cheating a threat? To make the matters worse, e-cheating is a threat because it is anonymous, because it takes place incognito. Internet experts will tell me there is always a trace. You can easily trace anyone and any action on the internet, but let's assume it's far more anonymous than in in-person contexts. It is imposed and it is omnipresent because it's pushed or forced onto students by social media and by aggressive online advertising, right? This is something that if you just try with this simple Google search, I think the phrase you should type into the search is essay writing helped, or how to improve your essay writing. You will not find websites which support your writing development process, but you will find websites which offer you essay mills. You'll find websites which offer essays to be bought. Something wrong got with my bullets here, but in the bottom left-hand corner, you see that it is a threat. E-cheating is a threat because it's fueled by copying and sharing. And what is copied and shared is, on the one hand, the content and the work which is to be submitted for assessment, but it's also advice and guidance how to best cheat on a given test. And what makes it even more alarming for us as teachers is that it is evolving at an unprecedented speed. It's happening so quickly that we, teachers, examiners, test administrators, we have to stay up to date, because on the one hand, ideas and tips how to circumnavigate new anti-cheating measures are being continuously discussed and shared online. And on the other hand, thanks to review and comparison websites, which provide prospective cheaters with comprehensive information, including how to choose the best deal, the best value for money, and even give contact to service providers, to those essay mills, it's not more than just a click away. So we really have to be aware of what's going on. And implications of insufficient test security can be very alarming. I already mentioned the reduced protection. Doctors, pilots, air traffic controllers, and any other people whose language skills are insufficient and have been certified still. It also means a lot of distress and tension to anyone who is involved. My German colleagues very often say, we do not know how to deal with the cases of academic malpractice, and we do not want to deal with those cases because it's just too much. For learners, for students, for test takers, it's just impediment to learning. If they can cheat, it means they will not learn. And if they don't learn, they will not improve, they will not move forward. Being indifferent to cheating may also result in skewed washback. Just think of yourself, if too many of yourselves, and your students, if too many students get a high grade on the test, your first thought is probably, the test was too easy. Think about the latest example of, I think it was a medical academy, where exams in anatomy were surprisingly, the results were surprisingly too good. And the discussion of professors was, they must have cheated on the tests, which means in turn the exams will probably be made more and more difficult, whereas we should rather think of test security measures to be taken rather than the level of difficulty being increased. This has definitely an impact on test validity. So are we testing what we're supposed to test? Or are we testing people's cheating skills? Or are we testing people's cheekiness and so on? Economic loss. If we admit people, for example, admit to higher education people whose language skills are insufficient, they might invest money in educational projects, in educational careers, which will not be successful in the end anyway. And of course, for any institution which does not fight cheating, this means loss of reputation and in turn, a loss of credibility. So, yeah, and actually, some people say that cheating is a victimless crime. It is not. let's not kid ourselves. I'm just reading out the caption because the quality of the scan is not perfect. Cheating is not a victimless crime. You damage your integrity, you dull your conscience, you present a false image of your ability to the professor, and unjustly benefit at the expense of students who aren't cheating. Yeah. So definitely there are many stakeholders, many participants of the assessment process who are victims of cheating. These are test takers themselves, as we said, but these are also various test users. These are test developers. These are teachers, so decision makers, state officials, university and school administrators, potential employers, etc. Many stakeholders get affected if cheating goes unnoticed. Okay, Beata is asking how to prevent cheating. What are we to do? And I hope it's almost there when I can turn to this practical part. Yeah, this is what you can see on the screen as the final slide on how resource intensive cheating is. And you can see that at least one person is always involved in cheating, in resolving instances of cheating, but usually directors of studies have to be involved as well. Our team leaders or other teachers would also be asked to support us. So it's never a job for just one person. So, exactly. Typology of e-cheating, according to Dawson, he categorizes 4 types: providing access to unauthorized information, cognitive offloading to a tool, outsourcing work to a person, and disrupting the assessment process. This is how he categorizes those instances. And this is also what he says, what he and other experts says can be done. So Dawson suggests using technology to combat e-cheating. He suggests surveillance. And well, of course, you can authenticate, you can verify identity of test takers. You can monitor what's going on while the test is being taken. You can control circumstances by monitoring student activity, but it comes at a cost. It has very high invasive character. And it's not always possible. It's not always legally acceptable, depending on local legal provisions within a country, within a university, within an educational setting. So surveillance, yes, but he also suggests lockdown, so controlling circumstances through disabling features on devices or networks. Again, because students are denied full use of their devices and networks, the invasive character is very high, and the software you can use for this purpose needs to be paid for. And well, the institution needs to cover the costs. These are various lockdown browsers, online exam platforms, assessment apps, etc. So maybe rather go for stylometrics. So authentication through comparing student writing style against writing they have produced previously. Here, the invasive character is far more moderate because it only involves building profiles of students, and you can do it either in an automated way at a cost, or you can simply use your teachers, your writers' own experience. This is only possible for writing tests for your written exams. Or maybe it's just about content matching. So authentication through comparing student submission to work that someone has produced previously, which has a very low invasive character, but requires extensive search, Google search, text matching tools, programs like like Turnitin and so on. So maybe technology is always not the best solution. What could we do as teachers? What could we do as non-IT experts? Well, definitely we can control the authorship, whether the piece of work submitted is really by the author who claims it to be their own, by identity checks prior to taking a test online. So not just relying on login details, but also checking students' IDs, checking their numbers, ID numbers, etc. We can expect them to submit a declaration of originality. Of course, you can say this is just a declaration without any value, but depending on the culture, it might be enough when students have to sign, this is my original piece of work. Another idea is to ask control questions during a viva or a follow-up oral review of a written exam, so that we can see whether the person who is examined orally is really the author of the written work. You can control the authorship by requiring submission of multiple versions of multiple drafts of the same text, and you can actually even incorporate feedback and the overall improvement process into your assessment. You can require submissions of handwritten and then scanned or photographed texts to compare the handwriting style, if of course everyone needs to write by hand. You can reduce the temptation in various ways. For example, when testing their reading skills, you can make texts available as JPG files, not as Word documents or PDFs, because this way you can't search for particular words. You can't simply copy paste into online dictionaries. Yeah, it will not make it impossible, but it will definitely make it more difficult. When testing oral skills, for example, via presentations, you can make presenters share the whole screen and not just a select or browser tab, to reduce the risk of reading out from notes, which are open in a different tab. When testing written or receptive skills in closed formats, you can rely on using safe exam browsers if necessary, if legally permitted in your context. You can use further online proctoring features that are available in your institution. And of course, you can reduce undesired communication or unauthorized aids by, for example, synchronous administration of synchronous administration for all test takers, by introducing a strict or reduced time limit, or by limiting the number of attempts, by not allowing the backtracking or correcting reworking items. You can use randomized testlets, randomized order of questions or tasks by using multiple test versions which are produced automatically. You should definitely delay feedback. So any correct answers, any scores should only be made available after the test has been over for all test takers. Yeah, many participants are now writing in the box that we should not try to outsmart them. Yeah, this is a battle of arms. Whatever we develop, they will be quicker, smarter, faster. So maybe we should rather think about using tasks formats which require individual creative responses. And these would include, for example, open formats or semi-open formats instead of closed questions, multiple choice questions, or dichotomous items. We should use open questions which are personalized, which are individualized, which are course related or classroom related rather than easily copied from the internet. We should introduce portfolio assessment, where the value of a single piece of assessment or assessed piece of work is lower. And this way, it's not just a one-off exam that counts at the end of the semester, but many single pieces of assessed work. We should test in a competence-oriented, in a task-oriented way. So not rely on recall of theoretical knowledge of grammatical rules, but rather on completing, performing a task. Exactly, we should focus on HOTS, higher order thinking skills, on analysis, on synthesis, on evaluation, or constructing people's own responses. We should very openly say our exam is an open book or open web exam. All possible, everything is at your disposal, and still, because of the way we formulate our questions, because of the way we formulate our tasks, it's not even necessary to cheat. And here, one of the options which comes pretty useful is to implement language mediation tasks, where you have listening into writing activities or reading into speaking. So we do not need to fall into the trap of trying to trick them out, trying to be quicker, faster, smarter, but rather developing something completely new, something that they will not need to cheat on. There is, however, a caveat. We have to be careful when pursuing this battle of arms. And let me use Dawson's quote once again. Over recent decades, there has been a shift towards more progressive, more learning-focused approaches to assessment, and in particular, away from high-stakes examinations and exclusively summative assessment. This shift has been beneficial for learning, for teaching, and for assessment. And if we allow ourselves to be seduced by a cheating panic, many of these gains may be undone. So indeed, let's be aware of cheating, but let's do not fall into the trap of anti-cheating trend. Whatever we do needs to be in line with our anti-cheating policy. And let me finish on a positive note, because if we really want to stop cheating, we should try to fix the system that causes it. And this system can be, should be, maybe fixed by preaching a different approach, by appealing to academic integrity and make it more popular and common among our learners, among our students. They should be committed to 5 values: to honesty, being honest to themselves, to fellow students, to teachers. It should be based on trust, mutual trust. And we know that remote learning, remote working has diminished trust in societies in general. So it's not an easy task to rely on trust in those digitalized times. It's also about fairness, being fair towards one another, being fair towards oneself, having respect and acting in a respectful way towards teachers, towards testers, towards collaborators, and being responsible and self-responsible for one's own development process. Whatever we do, whichever approach we choose, we have to remember that our measures very often have to be voluntarily accepted by test takers. As I said, I come from German higher education context, and very often we say we can't introduce certain measures just because students have to voluntarily accept them. They have to be treated equally. All test takers have to be fairly treated. They need to have easy and equal access to information, which is presented in a transparent way. And it's also about data security that we have to follow. For example, do not force students to show the conditions in which they are taking the test. So whatever principles of secure testing you decide to implement in your context, be sure that you are acting within those principles and within those restrictions and within the legal framework of your context. Let me finish by saying why we as language teachers, not only English language teachers, but why we as teachers, why we as members of language centers are the best persons to increase awareness of academic integrity. The quotes I'm showing you on screen now come from a discussion we held 2 years ago in Bremen with other language teachers, and they sound a bit bold. Yeah, they sound definitely courageous, but I'm sure also for members of IATEFL Poland, many of those commitments will ring a bell and will sound familiar. So I believe that language centers with their multicultural staff and with their multicultural customers, language learners, are among the most suitable units to be the beacons of academic integrity within their institutions of higher education. That's the experience I have made in the context I was active in. We believe that cheating needs to be addressed because it has long enough been treated as a taboo topic, and it has not been eagerly approached within many institutions of higher education, and I would say of any level of education, not just in Germany, but also beyond. I'm sure that the quality and reliability of language assessment belongs to paramount goals of language centers, of educational institutions Europe-wide. And these goals cannot be accomplished unless the topic of academic misconduct, of cheating, is properly addressed. In other words, it makes no sense to care for the quality of testing if cheating is not minimized. I believe that diverse cultural and educational backgrounds of our university students and university lecturers, and I would say of learners at all levels of education, need to be taken into consideration and fully understood. And this is what Peter Wiley said about different backgrounds, cultural backgrounds and approaches to cheating. We need to make people aware of what counts as misconduct in the culture in which that we are teaching them and in which they are being educated. And last but not least, the boldest statement, I would say, language centers oftentimes belong to the most progressive units within their institutions. Language teachers very often belong to the most progressive teachers within their institutions, and they are ready to initiate actions which concern various internal and external stakeholders. So definitely, we are the community to make this change. And speaking of community, as I said, I'm a member of IATEFL World TSEC, Testing, Evaluation and Assessment. And if you have not yet heard who we are and what we do, please visit our website, for example, our Facebook, simply TSEC. We organize not only conferences and in-person and online events, we also offer webinars, the next one in 2 days' time. We provide networking opportunities to teachers of English worldwide, to educators and to testing, evaluation and assessment experts. And yeah, of course, you're more than welcome to join us. You're more than welcome to visit our webinars. They are for free, and you do not need to be a member of TSEC. And we do not have the capacity, limited capacity of our webinar room. So definitely, if you want to come by, there will be a place for you. And yeah. Well, basically, it's past. So let me finish with my last slide. Thank you very much for your attention. It's been a pleasure following your your comments in the chat. I'm sorry for not responding to all of them. If you have any questions, you can ask them now via chat box. I'm sure Lucina or Martin will help me manage the Q&A session. And yeah, I would say stay safe and stay healthy. Thank you very much.
Thank you. That was very inspirational for all of us. We fight with this phenomenon and we will never be victorious. That is the situation, yes? But the closer we get to our dreams, the better for us.
This is indeed a battle of arms. Yeah, whenever we find a new weapon, our enemy will be even better equipped for the next battle. So we should probably not be too naive that one day we will win. I think that's the concept of the non-cheating culture, educating our stakeholders that it's not necessary to resort to cheating, yeah, and truly believing that's the approach we should follow.
I'm trying to follow in the meantime the comments in the chat box, but I don't see any questions. So just everybody is happy, satisfied. Thanks you for a wonderful webinar. I'm one of them. There is just one question, one suggestion, a reflection, I would say. Shouldn't we battle the authorities?
Well, the webinar is being recorded, so no. Grzegorz, the question about militaristic antagonizing language, it's the language used in literature. The battle of arms is used by actually even Cambridge assessment experts, so it's not just my language. Can we come back to the previous slide? Yes, of course. Yeah. There is a question about handling situation where you know children are cheating. And you do not want to hurt them. And in the same vein, Peter is asking whether and how to punish the cheaters. Well, it depends definitely on the context and what's legally permitted. Yeah, you can in a playful way, if these are children and if this is a relatively informal context, you can make them realize that cheating is not the way you want them to behave. But in more formalized context, I would also I would only resort to what's legally watertight. Yeah, and yeah, unfortunately, very often, unless it's precisely written down in the so-called exam regulations document, you end up with your hands tied, because you are not legally permitted to penalize the cheaters, the wrongdoers. But at least you can bring the matter to public attention, which is probably sufficient punishment for many people anyway. It just makes students aware of plagiarism, of cheating, of collaboration, collusion, not being an acceptable way of acting academically.
Two people have already asked about how about if parents help children cheat? That is a big thing for me, yes? What do you do? How do you... We are not dealing with parents at university level, yes? But at most levels, that is a big problem.
This is something I've been reading a lot about in the weeks preceding this webinar. I read a lot of articles about the Polish conditions, and this is something that struck me as very frequent, that parents do not see any inappropriate behavior in them helping their children. There was a story about a mathematical context, Kangaroo, where not only were parents supporting their children, but they were also organizing illegal expert support for them. And surprise, surprise, the level of the overall level of results in Poland has never been higher than this year when the exam was conducted online. So I think this is unfortunately the problem of the cheating culture of the society, where cheating is seen as a natural way of moving forward and a natural way of obtaining good scores at whatever cost. And well, it's a bit like with speeding. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Marcin would
you say you always follow the 50 kilometers per hour speed limit?
That's another story. Yes, you are absolutely right.
Unfortunately, that's a similar, to me, as I see it, that's a similar kind of an approach. Yeah, I mean, who cares? Yeah, someone has written, sorry to say that it seems to be our culture.
Yes, sorry to say so. And Marcin has offered formative assessment as a solution. Yes, that is. It is much more time demanding. Yes, you spoke also about portfolio assessment, and I realized that this is the type of assessment that I myself use also without naming it, but it's so much time consuming.
Definitely. But I would also involve self-assessment and peer assessment as part of this formative assessment process, where through the use of assessment criteria, through applying assessment criteria to the work of oneself or fellow students, learners learn a lot without being formally awarded any grades or any scores.
Yes, that's right.
And this way, the burden of correction, the burden of feedbacking is shared not just by the teacher, but also by students within the group. This is what we can definitely rely on in higher education, in probably courses with young adults, but something that's not so easy to implement and reliably work with at lower levels. So definitely not a solution for everyone. Grażyna is writing about students who use excuses, pretended technical problems as their excuses. Yes, and this is what's very common as well. We have at my university, we have a very detailed catalog of how such an instance has to be documented, so that it can be used to the benefit of the student. The burden of evidence is on the student to prove this was a true technical failure and not just a pretended failure used as an excuse. Students are aware of those conditions before the examination, and if a blackout happens, if an internet is cut out, if whatever happens, they know how to provide evidence, and if they submit the necessary documentation, they will be granted resit opportunity or second chance or whatever. If this is just a failure they pretend to be happening, then it's not being it will not bring them much. Yeah, I think this is Marcin's comment that as long as we need to assign grades, we will not eradicate cheating. Yeah, that's the thing. The higher the stake, the more benefit is attached to the grade, the more importance we have, the less likely we are to get rid of cheating in the end. Okay.
Okay, guys, I just interrupt you. If anyone of our dear guests today maybe would like to do a follow-up webinar on assessment in general, like what are the alternatives to grading that we are now debating on. So please feel free to suggest your ideas, and I'm sure Lucinda will contact you. Okay, thank you very much, guys. I still would like to thank Anna for very detailed webinar, and Lucinda, I'm sure you agree that the discussion that we are having right now is absolute evidence of how much light Anna you brought us, and how important the topic is. Don't you think, Lucinda? That's the discussion that we are having just now in the chat. This is the evidence that the webinar was really fruitful.
Yes, of course, of course. Many familiar names also, yes. So that means that in our circle, we are also concerned with these issues, and we have some more people from the outer circles who agree with us that this is one of the greatest concerns of us as teachers, yes, because we are people who are diligent, yes, who would like to do their jobs as well as best we can, and therefore it's one of the of very important topics, yes, because you feel that you've been teaching these students, and then suddenly you see that there is the break in communication process between them and you, yes, because they somehow don't understand the rules of the game. So it is really important, yes. And I would like to express my hope that Anya will continue cooperation with us in the area of cheating, generally speaking, but also in other areas that were really impressive in your profile, Anya. And I'm interested in all of them. So I'm sure that other participants also would be willing to listen to you.
Right, thank you very much for this open invitation, and we'll be in touch, or we'll see what can be of interest to IATEFL Poland audience as well.
Thank you very much, and bye.